Greetings to you viewers from across the globe. You're welcome to the show, Viewpoints, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. I'm your host, Odiawa AI for Veegil Media. On the show today, we'll be talking about the culture of profligacy. Now, when I mean about profligacy, I'm talking about extravagant waste. It's no occurrence that news making the rounds as of last week has been ranging from the exorbitant amount budgeted from the national budget to purchase SUVs, the sports utility vehicles, and also the presidential yacht. It's quite alarming that the amounts being used should be disbursed when apparently there's all sorts of economic crisis. Now, at a time of existential economic crisis, headlined by widespread poverty, insecurity, and galloping inflation, the current administration's commitment to billions of naira to luxury items in the 2023 supplementary budget, in my own opinion, frankly speaking, is insensitive, imprudent, and it's an insult to long-suffering Nigerians. Furthermore, in my own view, the course should also be changed. This situation whereby individuals representing constituencies elected by the electorate will come in and fill the office in which they hold are entitlements whereby their bank accounts need to be increased by the zeros. Now, votes committed to the presidential yacht, more the SUVs, and the renovation of the presidential residences should be redirected to economic stimulus, policies, and social programs to boost job creation and enhance national security. Now, these are prevailing emergencies which need to be addressed. Coming after the defiant expenditure of 57.6 billion on luxury SUVs by equally the National Assembly members, the public outcry to the current administration's abhorrent expenditures demonstrates chronic self-centeredness and disconnect from ordinary Nigerians by public officials. Now, it's sad enough that you come on board every 4 years annually, or maybe peradventure any off-season or off-cycle elections, and you are practically pleading for votes from these same electorates that upon assuming office you neglect. Now, a presidential yacht, as far as I'm concerned, the amount used in procuring such from the national budget should be used to address all sorts of food insecurities, job insecurities, or whatever insecurities may be. And peradventure security agencies are not fully furnished or equipped to address insecurities. They should also use these funds or channel those resources to make sure that they are adequately furnished with the right equipment to deal with insurgencies. We have state-of-the-art equipment from the drones or the small and light weapons, which the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force can also bring on board. But instead, this iota of wastage of funds over items which are not quite necessary is something we should also shed light on. Now, the National Assembly, in furtherance to what I have just said, as at November 2, approved 2.18 trillion, which was a supplementary appropriation bill forwarded to it by the president. Shockingly, instead of creative economic stimulus provisions, it contained anomalous items. Now, it therefore means that the Senate in question now has a backing of this same yacht. The Senate in question has the backing of this same vehicles or SUVs which are meant to be procured. Nigerian officials are naturally obsessed with the expensive fleets of vehicles and public expense. Now, actually, the bill provides 2.9 billion for the SUVs for the presidential villa and 2.9 billion to replace operational vehicles. Now, it was said now that these vehicles are actually meant for specific purposes. In furtherance, whereby as we relay more in these discussions, I will bring that up. Now, focusing on the fleet, now I'm not talking about the SUVs, now I'm coming out to the presidential air fleet. It actually receives 12.5 billion naira, defying economic reality, and the presidency keeps a large fleet that costs millions of dollars to maintain. It's common knowledge that when a presidential fleet, even if it's your helicopter, be it the Apache or whatever, when it's parked at the tarmac, you are also paying for a particular fee. Now, instead of pressing for more gunboats, which I said earlier on, to address the insecurity situation, and thereby also deploying drones to survey the aerial view, and special troops to safeguard the coasts and creeks, where its failures are evident in 400,000 barrels of crude oil, which are actually stolen daily. The Navy is trying to justify the yacht also. Why? Because it's also justifiable. Let me put it in my own language. Now, this administration currently should prioritize the people's needs, which I earlier on began by saying, and stimulate the reeling economy and supplementary budgets that sustains luxuries of officials, which is outrageous in my own view, my own opinion. Was that the government is also borrowing again to fund the current budget. And you claim there's no money. And then you are borrowing, and I would say it's another form of budget padding, as he said in previous administrations, that's at 8 years ago. It can be whereby you have scarce resources and then you are still clamoring for, or if I may come down in local explanatory parlance, you are earning in hundreds of thousands, yet still you want to live the life of someone who is earning units of millions. And someone who is earning in tens of millions, you want to live up to that life spending spree when you know your own fee is not up to that. Someone who is a billionaire cannot find, he will need to want to maintain his lifestyle. Why? Because he has the resources to afford that. But we on our own part, evidently, we do not have those resources, because when it comes to human resources, we are totally lagging behind, despite all the natural resources. Now, coming now over to the luxury SUVs, on the other hand, the resolve by 469 members of the National Assembly to proceed with the acquisition of luxury SUV vehicles is quite alarming. Now, this is out of taxpayers' money, which is quite unwelcoming. Now, is this taxpayers' money actually addressing the needs of the senators alone, or actually meant to address the Nigerians? It's what we should wine and dine about in our brains, which I will always call in this show Viewpoint, food for thought. To that extent, the plan of the lawmakers fell far short of the dictates of democracy and does not portray what I would say in the legislature as representing the people in the true sense of the word. A futile attempt to justify the lawmakers' plans, according to the spokesperson of the House of Representatives, Akin Rotimi. He was of the explanation, as far as I'm concerned, this excuse is not, it doesn't hold water. The excuse is a leaking basket. How would you come up with say that they are actually meant for specific purposes? I want to believe that they are also vehicles which are made here in the country. We could also make reference to the innocent motors, which we call the IVMs. These are strong and durable vehicles made and powered by a Nigerian for Nigerians. Now, if we are now going over to patronize vehicles made outside, another question is, are they assembled here also? That's another question. Now, we don't patronize our own products, thereby reducing the capabilities and the prowess of we here locally. How do people get to know us when our own vehicles are not driven on the roads? Another alarming and provocative, insensitive argument was a particular senator, which I want to believe is representing a constituency, was of the excuse that anytime he goes over to his constituency, he doesn't, he spends quite a huge amount of money on his vehicle. Now, the question is, if you had addressed the situation whereby you needed to have fixed the roads in your constituency, I don't think you go incurring unnecessary costs to fix your vehicle, thereby backing the statement of Akin Rotimi, whereby these vehicles are actually meant for specific purposes. Now, these fees are quite alarming and they are quite outrageous. Now, it is our plea that all these unwanted expenses which are not warranted will be properly addressed in due time. Join me in the next phase of the show. I'm Odiawa AI for Viewpoint, right here on Veegil Media.
Greetings, viewers from across the globe. You're welcome to the show Viewpoint.
welcome back to the second phase of the show. I'm our AI for Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue, right here on Veegil Media. We have been talking about the extravagant waste of public office holders, whereby they misuse the taxpayers' funds actually meant for the pleasing of Nigerians, which has actually now been displeasing to the ears of Nigerians. Why? Because of the utilizations of the said taxpayers' funds. Now, before I wrap up now, it should be a case of at a time when the nation is substantially run on borrowed funds and 130 million plus Nigerians live in multidimensional poverty due to bad governance, one item that should not form part of any legislative discourse, which is wastage. The National Assembly should actually be preferring solutions to revamp the economy and largely contribute to its decline via its exorbitant budgetary allocations and failure to effectively check the excesses of the executive. Now, another excuse before I draw the curtain on today's episode was that the executive arm on its own part was making use of utility vehicles actually for governmental primary assignment. Now, should it be a case of the legislative complaining about the executive arm that they are actually using specific kind of vehicles and they are also entitled to this kind of vehicles? Is it competition in government, or actually that government should also be non-partisan, taking part in all this envious pace whereby this arm is doing better off than our own arm, therefore we need to step up our game? Now, with this now which I have just identified, Nigerians need to activate their supervisory role over the elected representatives. They should desist from slavish attitude of singing the praises of politicians whenever they are fed with the crumbs of office. Because you look at it, you come and these crumbs now I'm talking about are these palliatives when they come in all forms of deception. Rather than they need to constructively engage in their representatives and demand nothing short of good representation is what we should expect. Fortunately, the position of the general public on the instant matter is unanimous. Nigerians are vehemently opposed to the purchase of these operational vehicles for the federal legislatures. But it is not just opposing it. How do you address all this? Now, we should jettison the plan of what it lacks, the validation of the Constitution and the people. I'm our AI. This culture of profligacy, I began by earlier on stating the meaning of profligacy, extravagant waste. Now, in terms of who this is addressed to, is the government officials. Now, it is not just the government officials also, like I ended earlier on a few seconds ago. We as the electorate voting in these constituents and representatives, we need to knock on their gates, keep shouting into their ears that these are not necessary. They should cut down and totally slash down on the budget, the national budget I mean here. Thereby, funds can be channeled to other meaningful activities in the government of the day. I'm our AI for Viewpoints, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. This is Veegil Media. I draw the curtain on today's episode. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, Veegil Media, on YouTube. Thank you. Like and subscribe.